Hi, I'm RL from MathinSg.com. In this video here, I'll be going through the H1 Math Specimen Paper from 2025. So the full work solution for this paper can be found here on my website. I'll provide a link in the description here. So at this website, you'll be able to view all the work solutions in this blog post, or you can also download it here. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the paper. So let's take a look at question 1. In question 1, you are given the curve has an equation y equals to 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 2x. And you are asked without using a calculator. So if you see the word without using the calculator, it means in exact form, okay? You are supposed to find the equation of the tangent to C at the point where x equals to half, giving your answer in the form y equals to mx plus c, where m and c are exact coordinates. So we want equation of straight line. So in order to find equation of the straight line, we need to have the gradient as well as a point. And the point will include both the x and y coordinates. All right. So now we have a curve C, and I know that C is 1, y equals to 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 2x. And at x equals to half, I'm supposed to find the equation of the tangent at x equals to half. All right. So what is this equation of tangent? Well, we need to know the gradient of this line as well as a point in order to find its equation. So what information do we have? Well, we know that the tangent has the same gradient as the curve, right? So if you are interested in the tangent at x equals to half, we need to find its gradient at x equals to half. So how do we find the gradient? Well, we need to differentiate y. So we will find dy dx, okay, which will give us negative 2 times negative 2e to the power of minus 2x. So in other words, the gradient is 4e to the power of minus 2x. And we are not interested in just the entire general formula for the gradient. We are interested in the gradient at x equals to 2. So we will sub in when x equals, we are interested in the gradient when x equals to half. So we sub in x equals to half. So when x equals to half, dy dx equals to 4e to the power of minus 2 times half, which is 4e to the power of minus 1. Okay, we'll keep it as this because they want exact form. Okay, so don't type it into your calculator. Now that we have the gradient, the next thing we need to do is we need the x and y coordinates, right? So we only know that x is half here. So what is the y value when x equals to half? Well, we need to sub it into the equation of this curve here in order to find what is this y value, right? Okay, so when x is half, y is equals to 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 2 times half, which is equals to 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 1. So I have the x and the y coordinates as well as the gradient at x equals to half. So now I can find the equation of the tangent. So to find the equation of the tangent, it is y minus the y coordinate, which is 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 1. Okay, equals to the gradient, which is 4e to the power of minus 1, times x minus the x coordinate, which is half. Okay, so now let's simplify it. Okay, so I can bring this over, because I need to make y the subject, okay, because this is the form that they want. Okay, these two, I can combine them. So minus 2e to the power of minus 1 minus 2e to the power of minus 1 is minus 4e to the power of minus 1. Okay, so basically if you look at this, my m is equals to 4e to the power of minus 1. My c is equals to minus 4e to the power of minus 1 plus 1. Okay, or if you want to rewrite it, you do not like e to the power of minus 1. E to the power of minus 1 is the same as 1 over e. So you can also rewrite this as 4 over ex minus 4 over e plus 1. Okay, so this is the equation of the tangent. You can write it in this form, or you can also leave it in this form. Both are correct. Okay. So if you like, this is the work solution typed out neatly, which you can download, link in description. With that, let's move on to question 2. So question 2 is a differentiation and integration question. So in the first part, you're asked to differentiate this with respect to x. Okay, so it's a ln. So whenever you differentiate ln fx, what do you get? You get f prime x, which is the differentiation of fx over fx, right? If you have a 3 in front, you just need to times the constant here. Okay, so let's do it. So d dx 3 ln 2 plus 5x cubed is equal. So I just copy my 3 here. Then I copy this 2 plus 5x cubed as the denominator. Then at the numerator, I need to differentiate 2 plus 5x cubed. So differentiate 2, you get 0. Differentiate 5x cubed, you get 15x squared. So this will give us 45x squared over 2 plus 5x cubed. Now let's move on to B. So you're asked to find this. So remember, there is no quotient rule, there's no product rule, there's no chain rule for integration. So you have a square here, you have to expand it. Okay? So if you have to look at this, you have 2 root x minus 3 over x square square. Okay, it's basically expansion, right? So if you have a plus b square, whole thing square is a square plus 2ab plus b square, right? So this one you have 2 root x whole thing square plus 2 times 2 root x times negative 3x square. Then next you plus this whole thing square. So it's 3 over x square square. So let's simplify it. So 2 root x whole thing square is 4x. Next, let's do this. So what I'll do first, I'll multiply all the numbers together. 2 times 2 times minus 3 will give me minus 12. Okay, so let me erase this. I'll change it to minus 12. Then I have square root x over x squared. So it's square root x over x squared. So square root x is the same as x to the power of half, right? So here, using your indices rule, it is minus when you do a division. So it's x to the power of half minus 2. So it's x to the power of negative 3 over 2. Okay, now let's do this. So in the numerator, I have 3 squared, which is 9. At the denominator is x to the power of 4. But because I want to do an integration, so instead of writing 9 over x to the power of 4, I'll write it as 9x to the power of minus 4. Okay, so I'm going to integrate this. So let me write it out here. So I'm going to integrate 4x minus 12x to the power of minus 3 over 2 plus 9x to the power of minus 4 dx. Okay, so recall how to do an integration. So if I've integrate x to the power of n, where n is not equals to negative 1, then it will be I'll increase the power by 1 over divided by the new power. Okay, so here I have 4x, x is to the power of 1. So now I'll increase its power by 1, so it becomes x squared, then divide by the new power. Similarly, here will be negative 12x to the power of minus 3 over 2 plus 1. So minus 3 over 2 plus 1 is basically minus half, right? So let me just change it to minus half. Over the new power, which is negative half. Next, minus 4 plus 1 is minus 3. So a new power is x to the power of minus 3 divided by this power, minus 3. So with that, let's simplify. So 4x squared over 2 gives 2x squared. Minus 12 over minus half, just type it into your calculator, you get plus 24. So here will be plus 24x to the power of minus half. Then here, simplify this, I get minus 3x to the power of minus 3 plus c. So this is the answer. Okay, so in short, this is the solutions for question 2. Now let's move on to question 3. So a company is replacing some chairs, some desks, and some tables in its offices. The manager knows the following information about cost. The total cost of 36 chairs, 25 desks, and 9 tables is $7,309. The cost of 11 chairs is $576, less than the cost of 4 tables. The cost of 14 desks is $38 more than the total cost of 3 chairs and 3 tables. So express this information as 3 linear equations and hence find the cost of 1 desk. So if you're to look at this, right, ultimately what is this question testing us on? Well, this question is testing us on the system of linear equations. So the clue is also here. They ask us to form 3 linear equations, right? And then what are we interested in? The cost. So they ask us to find the cost of 1 desk, right? So apart from knowing the cost of 1 desk, we probably also need to have a term or a variable for the cost of 1 chair and the cost of 1 table. Okay, so let's start off by defining some variables. Okay, so we will let $C be cost of 1 chair, then D be cost of 1 desk, and $T be the cost of 1 table, right? So now let's use this first information here. I have 36 chairs, so it's 36C plus 25 desk, 25D plus 9 table, 9T equals to $7,309. Okay, that's my first equation. Next, I have the cost of 11 chairs. Okay, is $576 lesser than the cost of 4 tables. So this means that 11 chairs plus $576 is equals to the cost of 4 tables. Okay, now because I know that I'm going to use my GC to solve it, right? So I want to write all those with variables on the left hand side and those without variables on the right hand side. So I'll rewrite this as 11C minus 4T equals to 576. So this is equation 2. Next, the cost of 14 desks is $38 more than the cost of 3 chairs and 3 tables. So 14D minus the cost of 3 chairs and 3 tables is $38, right? So let me write it this way. But remember, I want to have C first, followed by D, then T. So it's minus 3C plus 14D minus 3T equals to 38. It's okay how you write, but because we are going to type it into the GC, right? So I prefer to put everything that is C first, followed by everything that's D, followed by everything that's T as the third variable, so that when you type in, it gets less confused. So now that we have formed these 3 linear equations, we can type it into the GC. Okay, and from the GC, you will get the answer for C is 64, D is, oops, I use uppercase, so D is 85, and T is 320. So answer the question, cost of 1 desk, cost of 1 desk is equals to $85. Okay, now moving on to B. So a year later, the manager wishes to replace more chairs and desks. He finds that all the prices have increased by 5%. He has a maximum of $4,000 to spend and he buys an equal number of chairs and desks. Find the greatest possible number of chairs that he can buy. Okay, so what can I do? Well, I know that he wants to buy more chairs and desks, right? Okay, so let us let the number of chairs bought be X. Okay, and because he bought the equal number of chairs and desks, right? So the number of desks bought is X as well. Okay, so now the cost or the price of the chairs and desks have increased by 5%, right? Or they say all lah, but for this part we are only interested in the chairs and the desks. So we know that now the price of each chair is $64 times 1.05. right? And he's going to buy X of them. Similarly, the price of the desk has also increased by 5%. So the new price is 85 times 1.05. And he's also going to buy X of them. And because he only has $4,000, so this amount must be lesser than or equals to 4,000. Okay? So type this into the calculator, 64 times 1.05 and then plus 85 times 1.05, okay, into the calculator, or you can simply do it this way, okay. 64 1.05 plus 85 1.05, whole thing X is lesser than or equals to 4,000. Okay, so X is lesser than, because this one is positive, right? So we don't need to be afraid of the need to change the sign. So don't need to change the sign. So just bring everything over. Okay, so X is lesser than this. So you type this whole thing into the calculator. You know that X is lesser than 25.567. Okay, so it must be lesser than 25.567. So what this means, the greatest value for X is 25, since X is an integer, right? Because X is the number of chairs or dashboard, so X must be an integer. So the greatest number of chairs he can buy will be equals to 25. Okay, because X is the greatest number, or X refers to the number of chairs or dashboards, and the greatest value for X is 25. So the greatest number of chairs you can buy is 25. So in short, this is the working for this question here. You can download it, link in description below. With that, let's go on to question 4. So in question 4, you're asked to sketch the curve of y equals to x plus 2, 4 minus x, right? So for this one, you just type it into your GC, okay? So typing it into your GC, you will get a curve that looks something like this. Okay, so this is y equals to x plus 2, 4 minus x. Then this point here is minus 2, 0. This point here is 4, 0. The maximum point is at 1, 9. Okay, you can all use your GC to find all these points. Here is 0, 8, the y-intercept. Okay, so now that we have sketched out this curve, let's move on to part B. So the line y equals to x plus k intersects C at 2 distinct points. Find the set of possible values of k. So intersect at 2 distinct points. When you see this, we are looking at discriminant. And because it intersects at 2 distinct points, discriminant is greater than 0. But can we apply discriminant immediately? Not yet, because we still need to equate these two first. So let's first equate the two equations together. Okay, we need to expand this. So I have negative x squared minus 2x plus 4x, so it's plus 2x, then plus 8, then bring this over, minus x minus k equals to 0. So I have minus x squared plus x plus 8 minus k equals to 0. If you do not like the negative sign, then we divide all terms here by negative 1. Okay, or you can just leave it as here, also can, doesn't matter. So now we apply discriminant more than 0, because they intersect at 2 points. So discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, right? And b is the coefficient of x, which is negative 1. A is the coefficient of x squared, which is 1. And c is the coefficient of the constant term, which is minus 8 plus k. Okay, so it's 32 minus 4k. So minus 4k is greater than minus 33. So because I'm going to divide both sides by minus 4, I need to switch the sign. Okay, so k is lesser than 33 over 4, but they want set of values, right? So we need to write it in set of notation. Set of values of k. So k is from negative infinity all the way to 33 over 4. Or you can write it as k dot dot, k is real, comma, k is lesser than 33 over 4. This is also another way of writing it in set notation. This or this are both correct. Okay. Next, let's move on to part C. Without using a calculator, find the area of the region between C, which is here, the line y equals to x plus 6. Okay, so this is x plus 6. Let me just draw it. So use your calculator. They say without using your calculator, they don't know that you have used the calculator. Okay, so what I will do is I will first draw out the graph here. Okay, so what I meant is I will draw, this is here. I believe x plus 6 is somewhere here. Okay, this is 6. So using the GC, it should be somewhere here. And 2. So we cut somewhere here. Okay, y equals to x plus 6. So they are interested. So if you type it into your GC, y equals to x plus 6, you will see this, right? So the area between the curve, which is this one here, and the line y equals to x plus 6. So the area that we are looking at is the one that I'm going to highlight in yellow. This portion here. Okay, so we know that we need to take top, the integration of top, which is your curve C, minus bottom, which is this line here. Okay, and I'll need to integrate from this point here to this point here, right? So if you use your GC, you will be able to find that here is minus 1 and 2. But they say without using our calculator. So although we use the calculator, you cannot let them know we use the calculator, right? So you need to pretend to find this point, or we have to really find this point. But we already know from our GC that the point of intersection between this line and the curve is minus 1 and 2. Okay, so we have x plus 2, 4 minus x equals to x plus 6. So we want to find the point of intersection, so we need to equate this curve to this line. Okay, then we have already expanded just now, right? It's minus x squared plus 2x plus 8. So let's just copy it. Minus x squared plus 2x plus 8 equals to x plus 6. So simplifying it, you have minus x squared plus x plus 2 equals to 0. So it will be 2 minus, let me see, x 0. Okay, so I'll definitely have 1 plus x. Okay, then he'll be minus x squared. Yes, so this is what I get when I factorized. So therefore 2 minus x equals to 0, or 1 plus x equals to 0. So x equals to 2 or x equals to 1. So the area, so required area is equals to, I will integrate the top, which is this one here. Okay, and I already know that the equation of this is y equals to minus x squared plus 2x plus 8. So maybe I'll just write it here. Y equals to x plus 2. Because I don't want to do it again and again and again, right? The expansion, because I've already done it. So what I'll do is, I know that to find the area of this shaded part, it is the top curve. Integrate the top curve minus integrate the line from minus 1 to 2. Sorry, x equals to minus 1. So minus 1 to 2, then I have minus x squared plus 2x plus 8 minus the bottom line, which is x plus 6. Okay, it's a bit squeezy here. Let me put a line here. Okay, so now that I've done this, before I integrate, let me simplify it. Okay, so it's basically negative x squared plus x plus 2 dx. Okay, so integrate x squared will give me, negative x squared will give me 1/3 x cubed, negative 1/3 x cubed. Integrate x will give me half x squared. Integrate 2 will give me 2x, and I need to do it from 2 to minus 1. So you need to sub in 2 into this, then find the answer, then minus, sub in minus 1 into this and find the answer. So after you sub in, you should get 4.5 units square. All right. Okay, I've also shown the full working here. Okay, now let's move on to question 5. So in question 5, you are told that ABCD, this one, is a rectangle in which AB is YCM, BC is 4XCM, and then here you have a square of side XCM such that HG lies on DC and the square is inside the rectangle. Okay, the perimeter of ABCD is 58 cm. So ABCD is equals to 58 cm. So we can actually write out the equation. So the perimeter is basically 2y plus 8x, right? Equals to 58. Okay, then the area of the trapezium A, B, F, E is 90 cm square. So how to find the area of a trapezium? So this is A, B, E, F, right? So the parallel side here is X and here is Y, and the height here, the height from here to here is basically 4x minus x, which is 3x. Okay, so in order to find the area of the perimeter is half times the height, which is 3x, times the sum of the parallel sides, which is AB and EF. So it's x plus y, and it's equals to 90. Right? Okay, so this is, so you're asked to find x and y. So this question is on solving simultaneous equations. Okay, so let's take a look at this one here. I know that in order to solve simultaneous equations, I need to make use of the linear equation. That means those that have powers of x and y being 1, and then make one of them the subject. So did they say cannot use GC? No, they did not. Okay, that's great. So what I'll do is I'll just write y equals to 58 minus 8x over 2. Okay, then for this one I have so I'll times 2 over 180. Oops. So I have 180 here is equals to 3x square plus 3xy. Okay, so I know I have my 3xy equals to 180 minus 3x square. So my y equals to 180 minus 3x square over 3x. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2. So what I can do is I can plot these two as graphs into the GC and find point of intersection. Okay, then from there I would need to so if I were to plot these two curves in the GC and then find point of the intersection, I'll be able to get x equals to 3 and y equals to 17, or x equals to 6 and 2/3, y equals to 2 and 1/3. Okay, alternatively, you can solve it. So you can equate them together. So 58 minus 8x over 2 equals to this. Okay, but they didn't say without using the calculator, so don't bother, just use the calculator. Okay, it's way easier. Okay, if you solve this, you need to expand. It's a quadratic equation, no doubt, but it's quite tedious to expand it. Okay, so they didn't say use the without using a calculator, just use. All right, so because I can make y the subject. Sometimes you cannot make y the subject for both of them. So when you have a non-linear simultaneous equation, right, and you cannot make one of them the subject, either x or y the subject, then you have to solve it yourself because your GC is unable to do it. But if you can make y the subject for each of them, then you can just type this into the GC, plot it as a graph, and then find point of intersection to solve for x and y. All right. So here's the full solution for question 5. Next, let's move on to question 6. A company manufactures televisions. The rate C $1,000 per year, at which the total manufacturing costs change, is to be monitored regularly over a period of 4 years. The company economist believes that the connection between C and T can be modeled by this equation here. Okay. So using differentiation and this model, find the minimum value of C, justifying this value is a minimum. Okay, so this is the maximum minimum question, right? So we are given C, okay, and we need to find minimum C. So in order to find minimum C, we need to differentiate. So we'll find dc dt, because this equation is C in terms of T, so we'll be finding dc dt. Differentiate 30, we get 0. Differentiate minus 28t, we get minus 28. Differentiate 10t squared, we get 20t. Differentiate t cubed, we get minus t cubed, we get minus 3t squared. Okay. So when it's at minimum, okay, at minimum, okay, dc dt equals to 0, right? So I'm going to equate this to 0. Okay, then factorize it. So I'm going to put it here. 3. Okay, so I'll find that t equals to 14 over 3 or t equals to 2, right? So both are within 0 and 4. So I can, wait, this is reject, right? Because this is more than 4, reject. Since t is in between 0 and 4. So this one is already 4 and 2/3, so it's out. So equals to t. Okay, so they want minimum t, right? And they want you to justify that this is a minimum, right? So we need to find d squared c dt squared. So we need to differentiate this again. So we get 20 minus 6t. So when t equals to 2, d squared c dt squared equals to 20 minus 6 times 2, which is 12, which is 8, which is more than 0. So therefore, when t equals to 2, c is minimum. Okay, but they want c, they do not want t. So I need to find c. Okay, c. So I need to sub in t equals to 2 into this equation to find what is c when t equals to 2, because this is the value of c that is at the minimum. Okay. Okay, so substituting it in, I'll get 6. So I know minimum c okay, so that's for part A. Okay, let's move on to part B. So the annual profit from the sale of these televisions is P $1,000 per year. So the economist believes that the connection between P and T is given by this equation. Find the exact value of T for which P is equals to 11. So when P equals to 11, 11 is equals to 2 plus 18 ln T plus 1. Okay, and they want exact value, so we cannot use the calculator. So what I'll do is I'll first bring the 2 over. So 9 equals to 18 ln T plus 1. Divide both sides by 18. So 9 over 18 is essentially half. So it's half equals to ln T plus 1. So to remove the ln, I'll have e to the power of half equals to T plus 1. So therefore T is e to the power of half minus 1. Okay, so I found the value of t when p is 11, which is e to the power of half minus 1. Next, we are asked to sketch the graph of p against t. So basically just put this into the GC, right? This equation into the GC. And take note, you are given from t equals to 0 to 6. So you only need to draw from 0 to 6, nothing more, okay? So here is t, here is p, okay? So the curve looks something like this. And you know that when, so I'm going to put this as a closed circle because it's inclusive of. Okay, here is 0, 2, and here is 6, 2 plus 18 ln 7. Just sub it in, okay? Sub in t equals to 6 in, okay? So let's label the curve p equals to 2 plus 18 ln t plus 1. Okay? Next, determine whether the annual profit is increasing or decreasing when t equals to 3. So from the curve, here's 3, right? Okay, so we know that the gradient is positive, right? So you can just say from the graph, okay, p is increasing. Okay, so here is increasing. Okay, so here's the answer for parts. This question here, there's a typo. Here should be P and here should be T. All right, moving on to the next question. Let's look at question 7. Okay, so question 7 is now a probability, it's a permutation question. Okay, so a new reading club has 15 members, of whom 6 are men, 9 are women. A committee of 5 people is to be chosen from 15 members. How many ways can the committee be chosen if it must contain 2 men and 3 women? So, well, number of ways. Okay, so I want to choose 2 men from 6 men, right? So it's 6 choose 2. I need to choose 3 women from 9 women, so it's 9 choose 3. And I need to choose 5 of these people together, so it's a multiplication. So type this into a calculator, I'll get 1260. Moving on to B, in how many ways can the committees be chosen if it must contain at least 3 women? So you have 5 people, right? So you can have 3 women, 2 men. Then you can have 4 women, 1 man, or 5 women, 0 men. We have already found the number of ways to have 3 women. So next I need to find the number of ways with 4 women and 1 man. Okay, so to choose 4 women out of 9, it is 9 choose 4. Then 1 man from 6 men, so it's 6 choose 1, which will give me 756. Next, I need to find number of ways with 4 women, right? 5 women, which is the third case, which is 9 choose 5. Then I don't need to choose any men, so ignore it. Or you can, if you want, you can write 6 choose 0, which is equals to 1. Okay, and this will give, or you can just write it as this. Okay, so it will give me 126. So total number of ways, so add up the number of ways for these 3 cases. So 3 women, 2 men, the number of ways is 1260. 4 women, 1 man, the number of ways is 756. Then 5 women and 0 men, the number of ways is 126. So add them all out will give me 2142. Okay, now let's move on to question C. Suki and Tammy are 2 of the 9 women members of the club. In how many ways can the 9 women be arranged in a line with Suki and Tammy not standing next to each other? Okay, so in other words, this one cannot be next to each other, right? So what we can do is we can do the slot in method. So there are 7 other women, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As long as we slot Suki and Tammy in between any of them, then they will not be standing together, right? So, number of ways. So first thing we need to do is to arrange the 7 other women. So number of ways to arrange the 7 other women is 7 factorial. Next, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 positions. Okay, and I will need to choose 2 of them to put Suki and Tammy. Okay, and Suki and Tammy can permutate, so times 2 factorial. So total number of ways will be 282240. Okay? Okay, so here's the summary of the solutions to this question. Now let's move on to this question here. This is a statistic question. So a survey was conducted with a large number of business owners who were asked to identify one business skills that they would like to develop further. Okay? The survey showed that 60% would like to develop customer service skills, 30% would like to develop skills in marketing, and 10% would like to develop skills in financial management. So 6 business owners took part in the survey were randomly selected. So they asked us to use the binomial distribution, find the probability that exactly 4 business owners would like to develop skills in customer service. Okay, so basically what I'll do is I'll first define the binomial distribution. So let x be the random variable, or just be the random variable representing the number of business owners out of 6, right? Who wants to develop skills in customer service? Okay, and let us define x takes binomial distribution, n is 6, and what's the probability that someone wants to develop customer service? Okay, customer service is 60%, so it's 0.6. So part 1, use the binomial distribution, find the probability that exactly 4 owners would like to develop skills in customer service. So P of x equals to 4. So this is binomial PDF. Type it into your calculator, you get 0.31104. This is exact value. So you don't need to round off or reduce it to 3 significant figures. Next, no more than 3 business owners would like to develop skills in customer service. So no more than 3 means lesser than or equals to 3. Okay, so this is binomial CDF. Type it into your calculator, you get 0.45568. Next, let's move on to B. Find the mean and variance of the binomial distribution that you have used in part A. So this one you can just use your formula booklet, your MF27. So the mean is basically n times p, right? N is 6, p is 0.6, which gives me 3.6. And the variance is basically n, which is 6 times p times 1 minus p. Okay, so type it into your calculator, you will get a value of 1.44. Okay, now part C, use another binomial distribution. Find the probability that at least 4 business owners did not say they would like to develop skills in marketing. Okay, so let y be the number of business owners out of 6 that did not want to develop skills, who did not say they want to develop skills in marketing. Okay, so because 30% would like to develop skills in marketing. So that means 0.7 or 70% did not say they want to develop skills in marketing. Okay. So my y takes binomial distribution, n is 6. Now my p is 0.7. Okay, then now they say p of at least 4, at least means greater than or equals to 4, right? But now our GC cannot, is programmed, our binomial CDF is programmed for lesser than or equals to. So if I want to go from 4, 5, and 6, okay, so the binomial distribution will go from 0, 1, 2, 3, right? That means I need to take everything. So the probability from 0 to 6 is 1, right? Because you only have 6 business owners. It's either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6 of them. Okay, so the total probability is from 0 to 6. Okay, so it's 1 minus, and I only want 4, 5, 6, right? That means I need to minus p of y lesser than or equals to 3. So type this into your GC, you'll get 0.74431. Alright. Okay, so here's a summary of the solutions. Next, let's move on to question 9. So a game is played with a fair dice. A player throws this dice, and if the result is 2, 3, 4, or 5, that result is the player's score. If the result of the player's throw is 1 or 6, the player throws a second time, and the score is the sum of the two numbers from the two throws. Events A and B are defined as follows. A, the player's score is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. B, the player has 2 throws. So you're asked to draw a tree diagram that represents this situation, showing all possible outcomes. This is an extremely big tree diagram. So in short, the first throw, okay, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Then the probability for each one of them is 1 over 6 because it's a fair 6-sided die. Then if you throw 2, 3, 4, or 5, then your results is final, right? Final. But if you throw 1 or 6, you get a second try. Okay, then you get to throw again, which is your second throw. Then the second throw, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 for each die again, right? Then the probability again is 1 over 6, 1 over 6, 1 over 6 here. Okay, and what I'll do is I will also put the final score in bracket. Then I will denote final score written in here, something like that. Okay, it's a bit messy, okay, because I don't have a lot of space here, so I've already drawn here. You can take a look at this. So this is the tree diagram for part A. Okay. Okay, so now that we have drawn the tree diagram, let's take a look at B. Show that P of A is 1/3. Okay, so how to get what is A? Score 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right? So 5, this is the score, 5. Then 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are where they can score 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or yeah. Okay, so let's look at this. So P of A, P of A. So you get 5 if you the first row you get 5, right? So it's 1 over 6. Or, oh, here there's still another 5 here. Okay, or you score throw a 1 in the first round, and you throw a 4, 5, or 6, okay, in the second round. Or you throw a 6 in the first round, and you throw a 1, 2, or 3 in the second round. Okay. So if you sum this out, this is 1 over 6. This one is actually 1 over 12 plus 1 over 12. So you actually get 1/3. So it's shown. Okay. Next, find the probability that a player gets a score of 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 in 2 throws. So now we are not interested in event A. We only want 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 in 2 throws, right? So in 2 throws means it is only this. Okay, basically this one. So required probability is basically 6 times 1 over 6 times this. Because this one is when the first throw you throw a 1, then the second throw you throw a 4, 5, and 6. Or the first throw you throw a 6, then the second throw you throw a 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so this will give us a probability of 1 over 6. Okay, next, D, describe what is meant by the probability A given B in the context and find its value. So what is A given B? So A given B means the probability of A and B occurring, A occurring given that B has occurred, right? So what is A? A is that means the player gets a score of 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 given that he has 2 throws, right? Okay. So now that we have already defined it, so A given B in the context of this question means the probability that the player scores 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 given that he has 2 throws. That means he scores a 1 or 6 in the first round. Okay, then find its value. So P of A given B, so it's P of A intersect B over P of B. Okay, so what is the probability of A intersect B? It's basically 1 over 6, right? Okay, you get 5, 6, 7, or 8, and he has had 2 throws, which is basically the result from part C. Then what is the probability of B? That means have 2 throws. That means when he get a 1 or a 6 in the first round, right? So 1 out of 6, there are 2, 1 or 6 in the first round. So there are 2 outcomes out of 6 possible outcomes. So the probability of PB is 2 over 6. So this will give us an answer of half. All right. Okay. So here you are, a summary of all the results. Okay, this for part A, and this is for the rest of it. Okay. Now let's move on to question 10. 10 is a linear regression, correlation, and linear regression question. So 8 pairs of variables x and y are measured. The sketches above show possible scatter diagrams for the data. State which of the sketches A or B could represent a product moment correlation coefficient of approximately negative 0.9. Justify your answer. So there are 2 things, right? Minus 0.9, that means all the lines form almost a straight line. Okay, secondly, there is a negative relationship between the 2 variables. That's why it's negative. Okay, so or in other words, the gradient of the straight line is negative. So one look at it, we know that it is sketch A. Okay, because firstly, you know that sketch A, if I draw a line, okay, pardon my line not too nice. Okay, it looks something like this. Okay, so it is basically a line with a negative gradient. So that's why you can have negative 0.9. Okay, and they are quite close to a straight line. Okay. Suggest an approximate value for the product moment correlation coefficient for the remaining sketch or A or B. So we already say that A is the one that is likely to have a R value of minus 0.9. So B, what is the R value of B? Well, it's probably 0. Okay. If you draw, it's like a horizontal line, not much relationship. Okay, so I've given the answers here, you can read through. So now let's move on to B. So the monthly earnings $1,000 of 8 employees of different age X years in a particular company are given. Okay, give a sketch of the scatter diagram for the diagram as shown on your calculator. So just use your GC, type all these in to get a scatter plot. So this is what you'll see. So what is important from the GC? You need to label your X and Y and then give the limits. So X goes from 18 to 60. Oops. 18 to 60. And then Y goes from 2.75 to 6.92. 2.75 to 6.92. Okay. Then just draw these points here. So for part C, part 1, you only need to draw these points. Okay. These points here. Okay, just these points. Okay, now let's go on to part 2. Find the product moment correlation coefficient and comment on its value in the context of the data. So basically just put these values in and then use your GC to do a linear regression. Okay, then you can get your R value, which is the product moment correlation coefficient. So what we get from the GC is R is equal to 0.988 when round off to 3 significant figure. Okay, comment on on its value in the context of this data. So we know that this value 0.988 is 0.988 is very close to 1, right? So it's a good fit. Okay, so there's a good fit in linear relationship between X and Y. Next, find the equation of the regression line of Y on X. Give your answer in the form of Y equals to AX plus B. Give the values of A and B, correct to 3 significant figures. Sketch this line on your scatter diagram. Okay, so what you need to do a lot of things, right? But because you have done the correlation, the linear regression in part 2, you already have the values of A and B. Okay, just copy them and write it as answers to part 3. Okay, round off the 3 significant figures. Then you need to plot this line into this graph here. Okay, so it will look something like this here. Okay, so for part 3, you also need to draw this line. Oops. Next, go on to 4. Use the equation of the regression line to calculate an estimate for the monthly earnings of a 40-year-old employee in the company. Comment on the reliability of your estimate. So we know that X is basically the age, right? So when age is 40, when X is 40, we need to find what is Y. And remember, Y is in thousands of dollars. So what we'll do is we will sub in X equals to 40 into this equation. So you get 5.073. Okay, so you know it's 5.073 thousand, so it's basically $5,073. Okay, so the monthly salary of the 40-year-old employee is estimated to be 5,073. Okay, next they ask us to comment on the reliability of this. So whenever they ask you to comment on your reliability, you need to look at 2 things. First thing is your R. So is your R close to 1? Yes, R is close to 1. So we know that it's a good fit, right, the data. Next, we need to look at whether it's interpolation or extrapolation. So X equals to 40 is within the data range, which is from X equals to 18 to 60. So we are doing an interpolation. So therefore, the estimate is likely to be, reliable. Okay, so since R is close to 1 and X equals to 40 is within the range of the data of 18 to 60. So therefore, the estimate is likely to be reliable. Alright, with that, let's move on to question 11, which is a hypothesis testing question. So a scientist claimed that in a particular forest, the mean height of mature trees is greater than 27.8. To test this, she takes a random sample of 60 of these trees and measure their height, X meters. Their height is summarized as follows. So test at the 5% significance level whether the scientist's claim is supported by the data. So once you're given this data, there are 2 things that you need to do. for hypothesis testing, you need to find the unbiased estimate of population mean, which is basically your X bar lah, which is because the n is 60, so you just take this 1698 divided by 60. Then you also need to find the variance. Just use the formula. It is already given in your MF 27. Just use it. You'll be able to find the unbiased estimate of population variance, or your S square. Okay, so this is what we did. So we have found X bar as well as the S square. So next, they are asked to test at 5% significance whether the scientist claim is supported by the data. So what did the scientists claim? The scientists claim that, right, the mean height of the red pine trees is greater than 27.8. So my H1 is this. So my H0 is always equals to mu equals to 27.8. Okay, so this is what we are testing. Okay, so you're testing H0 equals to 27.8 against H1 mu greater than 27.8. Okay, this is a 5% level of significance, and it is a one-tail test because it's greater than, so that's what we wrote here. So did they tell us that this is a normal distribution? No, right? So we need to do our approximation by central limit theorem. So under H0, X bar takes this approximately under central limit theorem since n is large. Okay. Then once you have done this, use your GC to find the p-value. And we know that the p-value for this is 0.112. Now you want to test at a 5% level of significance, right? That means 5% is 0.05. So my p-value is greater than 0.05. So we do not reject H0 and conclude that there is insufficient evidence at 5% level of significance that the mean height of the mature pine trees in that particular forest is more than 27.8 meters. Okay. So now that we've done with part A, let's go on to part B. The height of a new random sample of 80 mature red pine trees from a different forest are measured. The mean height of trees in this sample is k meters. Okay, so the mean height is k meters, and the population variance is assumed to be 9.4 meters square. So my sigma square is equals to 9.4. Okay. Then I know that my X bar is K. Test at 10% significance level. A test at 10% significance level fails to reject the belief that the population mean height of mature trees is 27.8. Okay, find the possible set of values of K. So because the unknown here, right, is the mean height of the tree, right? Your X bar, right? So therefore, you cannot use the p-value method. You need to use the critical region, compare test statistic with critical region. Okay. So this is how you do it. So again, we are going to test mu equals to 27.8 against mu not equals to 27.8. Okay, because they say the mean height is 27.8, right? They didn't say greater than or lesser than, so it's just not equals to, so it's a two-tailed test. Okay, so we know that at 10% level of significance, we need to find the critical region, so you just use your inverse norm, okay, with mu equals to 0 and sigma equals to 1, okay, and you'll find that your z is greater than, or your critical region, your z is greater than 1.644, or z is lesser than 1.644. So you need to write this because they didn't say there's a normal distribution. So you need to write out the standard statement for central limit theorem. Okay, then next we know that since we do not reject H0 at the 10% level of significance, so what does it tell you? It tells us that the test statistic does not lie within this critical region. And how to find test statistic? Just use your formula K, which is your mean, minus mu over square root of variance over n. Right. Okay. And we know that this value here does not lie within this range. That means this value here is in between minus 1.644 and 1.644. Okay, solving the inequality tells us that K is in between 27.2 and 28.4. So this is the set of possible values of K. Okay, so some things to remember, right, for your hypothesis testing. How do you do the test? Okay, and the standard format for presentation, that is very important because every exam will come out. Okay, so remember how to present it. Then there are two methods, right? What is the p-value method? When do we use the p-value method? Well, we use the p-value method if there's nothing that's unknown. We are just going to test it and see whether do we reject h naught or do not reject h naught at the whatever percent level of significance. That's one. The next time we also use p-value is when the only thing that is unknown is the level of significance, and we need to find what is the level of significance. Okay, in that question, we can also use p-value. Anything else that is unknown, whether it's mu, is x bar, it is sigma, is n, or whatever, you need to use the test statistic method and compare test statistic with critical region. Okay, so you need to know the both methods of hypothesis testing well for your H1 exam. Okay, now let's move on to question 12. So question 12 is a normal distribution question. So question 12, the masses in kg of pears and apples sold by a supermarket are independent normal distributions with means and standard deviations as shown in the table. Okay, so now find the probability that the mean of a randomly chosen pair is lesser than 0.21 kg. So we first need to define, right? So maybe I will let B be the mass of a randomly chosen pair in kg. Okay, so B takes normal distribution, and then the mean is 0.19 and the standard deviation is 0.028. So I need to square it so that it becomes variance. So I need to find what is the probability that B is less than 0.21. So I basically use your normal CDF with the lower limit as negative E99, the upper limit as 0.21, and I'll get a probability of 0.762 and round off the three significant figures. Next, I need to find the probability that two randomly chosen pairs each have a mass of more than 0.21. So what is the probability of B greater than 0.21? Well, it's simply 1 minus 0.762, right? Okay, which is 3, 2, something like this. So what is the required probability? Required probability is basically both of the pairs have a mass greater than 0.21, right? So you just need to take this and square it, which will give us 0.0564. Next, let's move on to C. Without any calculation, explain why the probability that the total mass of two randomly chosen pair is more than 41 kg is greater than your answer in part B. So, if you want two pairs being more than 0.42 kg, okay, versus each pair have a mass of 0.21 kg, this event, each pair, so you have two pairs, each pair has a mass of more than 0.21 kg. It's basically a subset of the total mass of two randomly chosen pairs have a total mass of more than 0.42 kg. Let me give you an example. So for this one, I need all the two pairs to have a mass of more than 0.21 kg, right? But for these two pairs, their mass add up to be more than 0.42 kg. I can have one pair maybe being 0.1 kg and the other one being 0.35 kg, right? So I have more cases. So therefore, the total mass of two randomly chosen pairs is more than 0.24 kg, okay, has a higher probability because okay, it also includes one pair with a mass of lesser than 0.21 kg and another one being greater than such that total mass add up to be more than 0.42 kg. Okay, or in short, basically this part B is a subset of the total mass of two randomly chosen pairs with mass more than 0.42 kg in all. D. Find the probability that a randomly chosen pair has a mass greater than the mass of a randomly chosen apple. So let me define. So let me just erase these. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. Okay, so D. So if you want the answer for C, it's here. So you can just here. The probability that each pair is more than 0.21 kg is a subset of the probability that two randomly chosen pair is more than 0.42 kg. Okay, so now let's go on to D. Find the probability that a randomly chosen pair has a mass greater than the mass of a randomly chosen apple. So that means if I let A be mass of apple in kg, that means I'm finding what's the probability that B is greater than A, right? But when I want to use my GC, I need one other side to be a number. So I need to bring the A over. So in order to find the probability of B minus A is greater than 0, I first need to find the normal distribution for B minus A, right? So I first need the expected value of B minus A, which is EB minus EA. And remember, the expected value is the same as the mean. So it's basically 0.19 minus 0.12, which is 0.07. Then for the variance of B minus A is essentially, remember we never subtract variance, it's always add. So it's variance of B plus variance of A. So it's essentially 0.028 square plus 0.016 square. Okay, so this is my mu, this is my sigma square. So I type this into my GC to find what's the probability that is greater than 0. Okay, so this one is your mu. You need to square root this to get your sigma. And then because you are using the normal CDF and you want to find B minus A more than 0, so the lower limit is 0, the upper limit is E99 to represent infinity. And you'll get a value of 0.985. Okay, so that's the answer for part D. Moving on to part E, find the probability that the total mass of 6 pears and 4 apples is lesser than 1.7 kg. So I have B1 plus B2 all the way to B6 plus A1 plus A2 all the way to A4, right? Let me define this as T. Or maybe, okay, in my answer sheet, I define them as M. So let M be this. So what is the expected value of M? It's basically 6 times the expected value of B plus 4 times the expected value of A, which is equals to 1.62. Then the variance is basically you add the variance of B 6 times. So it's this. Then you add the variance of A 4 times. Okay. So basically it gives this 1.62, 0.005728. So now I'm interested to find the sum of all these mass being lesser than 1.7 kg. So type it into my GC. Okay, I'll get a probability of 0.855 when rounded off to 3 significant figures. Then part F, find the probability. Okay, pears cost $10 per kg and apples cost $12 per kg. Find the probability that Mr. Song's 6 pears and 4 apples cost $16 and $18, between $16 and $18. So maybe let me erase these here first. Okay, so I think I should have enough space for part B. So now part F. So let's do part F here. So now I have 6 pairs, right? Okay, and each, I'm interested to find the total cost. So I know that, right, the cost will be B1. So because pairs cost $10 per kg, so the cost of one pair is 10 times its mass, right? The cost of the second pair will be 10 times B2 and so on. Doing the same, because an apple costs $12 per kg, so the cost of each apple is $12 times its mass, right? So it's 12 times A1. Okay, and let's ask, let y equals to this. So how do I find the expected value of y? Well, it's basically 8 of 10 of EB1 plus 10 of EB2 all the way to plus 10 of EB6, right? Same thing for your apples, 12 of EA1 plus all the way to 12 times EA4. Or basically, it's basically 10 times 6 times expected value of B, which is 0.19. Then 12 times 4 times expected value of A, which is 0.12. Okay, so add this up, it will give me 17.16. Variance is the one that is more tricky. So if you have variance, if you have a number in front, it now becomes 10 square times variance B1. Then do the same for 10 square variance B2 all the way to 10 square variance B6, right? Then do the same for apple. So there's a coefficient of 12 in front of A, so the variance is 12 square variance A1 all the way to 12 square variance A4. Okay, so in other words, it's basically 10 square times 6 of variance B1 plus 12 square times 4 of variance A. Okay, which will give us 0.617856. So I think I need to erase more. Okay, so now that I've done with this, I know that I can define my y as a normal distribution with expected value of 17.16 and the variance of 0.617856. Now I want to find what is y in between $16 and $18. So I use my normal CDF. Okay, lower limit is 16, upper limit is 18. My mu is 17.16. My sigma is square root of this value here, 0.617856. And this will give me a value of 0.787 when rounded off to 3 significant figures. Right, so here's a summary of the answer for this question. So we have come to the end of the 2025 A-Level H1 Math Specimen Paper. So if you're interested, the link in below to download the work solutions.